As Nour gave her interview with Hikmat, here are some amazing level-up lessons from Love is Blind Habibi. Ramsani, how do you do? So the first lesson is Nour is daddy's little princess, and Dounia is a daughter of a single mother. And this is why Nour gets everything she wants, while Dounia struggles with a boy who is really not that into her when as soon he sees has other options and is very likely to cheat. And the relationship for Dounia is not on her terms, and she's always hurt and jealous, whereas Nour is always happy and gets what she wants in life. What I found so interesting from the show, and this is observation number 2, is Sophia Loren said the most important thing about beauty is the belief that you're beautiful, right? When you think you're beautiful, then others will think you're much more beautiful than you are. Looks-wise, all the ladies were more or less equal, except Dounia, because she was younger than most, technically was the prettiest, and she was treated as seen as the ugliest. The gentleman looked at her as the lower value one, who had to get the boy with her personality alone because its love is blind. But if it were in person, she would be the last choice. Gentlemen treated Dounia as though she was the least attractive lady in the room, when she was physically the most technically beautiful, because she was by far the youngest of the group. All of them were the same type, slim, same figures and all that. Dounia was the physically most attractive, but gentlemen treated her like the least attractive. The gentlemen treated Nour as the most attractive and even above their league, though, she was the average of all the ladies. And number 2, gentlemen treated as second most attractive was the Moroccan, Hajar. Hajar didn't quite know her style, but she was the second most confident, so gentlemen treated her as the second most beautiful. And when she walked out, someone was telling Simo, oh, he has a model. Hajar is long past the average modeling age, and it's Dounia who is the average modeling age, but was treated as the least attractive. And this is a major lesson to learn, ladies, that your confidence, as we were taught in Miss Universe, is one of the main factors in your appearance. Of course, if you're going to be like Lizzo used to be before she lost the weight, this confidence comes across as fake. If you're morbidly obese and you think you're the most beautiful woman in the world, gentlemen will treat you as delusional and crazy. I know it came across as controversial, but I no longer, after the abuse I went through, give ladies who are very overweight advice in how to dress or take them as a client if they intend to ask me how to dress for dating. Okay? I will take you if you want me to teach you how to dress for success professionally at work and you're not slim. But if you are very overweight, gentlemen will not treat you well. So don't date, right? Just go to the gym. I suggest wearing dark clothes, things with ruching and prints and so on. I will take plus size clients, and I've helped plus size women who want to dress in a more dignified, elegant and posh way. I'm more than happy to do so. But, if you're morbidly obese, you're not going to get an affluent gentleman or male model. Yes, confidence is beauty. But if you, are morbidly obese and have health issues and walk around with a cane because you're so obese, but you strut around thinking you won Miss Universe under Donald Trump years, this is not confidence. This is arrogance and delusion, and it's not attractive, right? If you have health problems, it's time to solve those first and then start dating. because also health is beauty. So 1 and 2 are related, that Nour has a lot of confidence because she is not a daughter of a single mother, but rather daddy's little princess in a happy two-parent family home. And the problem with Dounia, she is one of the rare daughters of single mothers in the Middle East. Normally, in Muslim countries, fathers have custody. Ladies raised by fathers and their family members very often have much healthier self-esteem than daughters of single mothers. So in the Middle East, if there's something egregious, normally custody is rewarded to the gentleman, but if there's something egregious, or the children are very young, or the gentleman just does not want the children, then the custody is awarded in a divorce to the lady. So Nour, being daddy's little princess, gives her an abundance of confidence, which affects how she dresses, and therefore how, number 2, the confidence affects how she's perceived, right? So Nour's father thinks that she's beautiful. So, starting with my grandfather, he thought I was the most beautiful baby ever born. And also my dad, I was daddy's little princess, So, as daddy's little princess, I have a lot of self-confidence, plus I was in pageants. And if you remember, my Miss Universe secret is to go to the mirror every day and say, everyone wants to be me or marry me. I'm the most beautiful woman in the world. You say to the self, looking in your eyes in the mirror twice a day. And after a month or so, it will change your walk, talk, and how people perceive you. I highly, highly, highly recommend doing that. It's a tip from Lucera. Yes, it will change how you're perceived and how people treat you. Because when it comes to manifestation, I don't believe the woo-woo part, but the psychology. That what we believe is how we perceive, and then it changes our reaction to the world. Since Nour thinks she's the most beautiful, she has a beautiful posture, if you notice. Also, Nour, because she thinks she's the most beautiful, she acts and dresses confidently. She's not a pick-me, she's a queen. And her clothes, so when she comes in, she wears very form-fitting. Of course, I don't think they're elegant, but, they still highlight her figure. So she wears body-conscious clothing, which I do recommend. Though my body-conscious clothing, as you see, my clothing is tailored to me. But it's all fitting, and I always make sure to have a beautiful figure. So even if you're not tailored, sometimes having a petticoat or something, crinoline underneath, it can create an hourglass shape. So if you have this hourglass shape with your clothes, you can always create this effect, right? And so your clothes should be body conscious enough that you're a sexy woman, but loose enough to show that you're a lady. Nour dresses sexy, as in here I am, I know I'm beautiful. And she always wears clothes that compliment her. I don't agree with her choices in clothing, but her choices in clothing work for her. Also, if you're from Lebanon in the Middle East, if you're dressed in a very revealing way, it does not imply that you're floozy the same way it does in Western countries. Nour's clothing makes her look her best. Nour is in love with herself. So she always looks, oh, this looks cute, oh, that looks cute, let me see. If you have confidence and think you're pretty, you go and you try different things. And I was trying these earrings, I thought, oh, this would look cute with my outfit, and you try this and that, right? Dounia the Pickme's clothes are all covered up, all frumpy. She's hiding in her clothes. So on the beach day, she wore this huge bag. So on the beach day, Nour came around walking like this, right? So my dress is to the knee, hers was mini, but still, if you walk around like this, with a dress to the knee, right? I do this because I think I'm beautiful. I know my body is beautiful. Look at me, right? I'm so beautiful. So of course, gentlemen see this and they think, wow, she's pretty, right? Especially with a posture like this, right? I think I'm beautiful, therefore I am beautiful. Dounia was wearing some sack like this. Of course it still looks okay on me because it's my color season. However, she had this sack walking around. Observe. See, I go from frump to Miss Universe. Real Masani from Yemen. And I am Miss Universe. Do you believe me? See, it's my confidence. That's why you believe me. Though I didn't win. Do you see the Nour makeover and confidence, right? And you notice there is such a significant difference, right? I play up my eyes, I know my best makeup, I spend time on figuring out what makeup suits me, because I know I'm beautiful. I believe I'm beautiful. Why? In Trump's pageant, that's how they trained us, right? I'm confidently beautiful. So, and then I have fun, because I feel pretty. I think what lipstick, what makeup, what clothes, jewelry, what suits me, and I have so much fun doing it. So unlike Nour, I dress classy, sexy, but like Nour, I know I'm hot, I know my value. So you see, I'm beautiful, and everyone can see this. But if I hid my beauty behind a hunched back and frumpy clothes, I walk around like, I'm shy. You see the difference, right? I'm the same person, but you can see how dressing, putting my Nour on, I will attract the room, and dressing like Dounia, I become the last choice, right? Because gentlemen, part of the appeal of beauty is the prestige. Gentlemen like women that are high value or high status, and this comes with confidence. Before Nour even was visible and they knew how she looked like, they knew she was beautiful because she had confidence and standards even though they couldn't see her because of Love is Blind. And she affected all of them, so they heard she was a model, and she doesn't do any cheap dates. For her, it's important for a man to be a provider. She triggered them so much that this group of Arab males came together and had a pact to not be providers or to not be men in the Middle Eastern sense. They were so triggered by her confidence because these young boys lacked it. Because, see, who goes on an Arab dating show for? Males on this show, they are the leftover males, right? Because no sensible gentleman in the Middle East would go and find a wife on a dating show. It's just a sign of desperation for gentlemen. For a lot of ladies, okay, they're getting older, but for many ladies, an influencer is a career, and so they're on there, to promote their channel and as an influencer, right? Whereas males, it's probably desperation. And that's why Nour triggered the males and the Pickmes. So Nour gave an over an hour long interview with Hikmat, and that was so interesting. So she gave, but it was a lot of the stuff you already know. So the reason she said she did not appear in social media and talking about everything was because she initially planned to take everyone to court for defaming her except the two who stood up for her. However, she thought it was just too much work, so when she saw all the popularity she got and how the public went after those who defamed her, kicking people who are already kicked by the public, there was really no point, right? Justice was already served in the court of public opinion. There was no need for more of it. And Nour represents what most Arab women want. The difference is, though, elite Arab ladies, we do cappuccino dates at high-end places, right? However, this is the liberal ones, right? That our fathers allow us to see someone. Okay, often it's chaperoned, but, right? Safa met her husband in Dubai. I think it was Dubai Bling, one of those. And so she met her husband in another Arab reality TV show in an elite cappuccino date, right? So, but the point is, it's supposed to be a cappuccino date to a nice place, right? If it's date zero, it's not the real date. But, he shouldn't be taking you to cheap places as a beautiful lady, right? So even if it's a cappuccino, it should be a nice place. And if next, I don't believe in dinner dates early on because of male psychology. Also, my father and my parents are more conservative than Nour's. So they don't like, me to go out at night, with a stranger. It's good to go out during the day and get to know someone, let him get my parents' approval, this sort of thing. They're not happy with me going out at night with someone they have not met. They don't think it's safe. You can have a lovely lunch during the day at a high-end restaurant. Love is Blind Habibi came across as a drama where Nour came across as the queen protagonist and Dounia the Pickme came across as the antagonist. So in Dounia, because she was raised by a single mother, she hunches her back, she dresses in frumpy clothes, she got haircuts that weren't suitable, she started dressing finally a bit better towards the end, finally learning a bit more. So Chafic, he's a bad boy who flirted with everyone. And in the end, he decided that because love is blind, you can't see people, that he ended up picking Dounia, not Nour. But then when he saw Nour, he realized that he had tried to get her, she's an Instagram baddie, and tried to slip in her DMs and ask her out, and and so now he's there and he's engaged to this frumpy little church mouse, Pickme Dounia, when really he tried to present himself as a playboy in hopes of getting a baddie like Nour, but too bad, too late, so sad. So when Chafic, he flirts with Hajar and Nour and Dounia, and then he picks Dounia. And the other two were, okay, bye-bye. And then, Nour, she gave him a beautiful book by Michel Proust, right? So he returned her books to her, right? And she thought, all right. And then he met Nour in person and realized he knew her in the past, and he tried to slide into her DMs. And she used to be that inaccessible Instagram model, and here they were dating blindly in Love is Blind. And she's really the type that he was gearing his playboy act towards in hopes of attracting Nour. But he's with this pick-me church mouse in frumpy clothing. After he rejected Nour and Nour saw that he was with Dounia, he had a fiancé, Nour said hi to everyone but him. And this made him so upset. Well, he's engaged. Nour is respecting his choice. So then he started to complain to everyone that she was paying attention to anyone but him. Then he started to spread some rumors because he was so upset. And he tried to spread some rumors towards Nour's fiancé, Mido, and create a fight. And he was also talking to Simo, who was manipulative, and he was trying to cause fights, and trying to drag Nour's name because she didn't say hi to him. And then she finally said hi to him because, he insisted, and she had to be polite. And he started speaking, and she said, because his broken Arabic, she said, "Oh my goodness, that's such a cute accent." And she was laughing, while Dounia said, "Nour's laugh can be heard from here to Pakistan." No, silly. Nour was not flirting with anyone. If she wanted to flirt with your fiancé, she would have said hi to him first. So he more or less approached her, they had a little chit-chat, and then she went on her merry way. She was not really paying attention to him, but she was so confident that other, gentlemen were checking her out. When Hajar saw something fell on Nour's dress, she sought to take care of it, and her date Simo told Nour to turn around, and because I think it fell on her buttocks or something like this, so he wanted to inspect, and Hajar said, that's so rude, that's not acceptable. Dounia claims that she has a right to defend herself and attack Nour. At the last episode, all the boys and then Dounia also attack Nour, and Hajar and Karma defend her. And Dounia, the Pickme, jumps on Nour. She said she was defending herself because Nour was flirting with her fiancé. First of all, Nour was not flirting with your fiancé. That's why she, ignored him first out of respect, right? So stop lying because you're so damn insecure. Secondly, being engaged is not the same as married. People are single until married, so fiancé, shmiancé, it's not the same as a husband.
Ironically, the more you agree and try to please others, the less you are valued. Here's an explanation from a psychological angle. Instead of being liked and appreciated for being nice, you'll often end up taken for granted and undervalued, and people might care less about your opinions or how they treat you. That's not because people are bad. We all tend to do that without noticing, and here are the main reasons why. Number one, there's a psychological principle called decreased scarcity effect, proving that people stop appreciating what's easily accessible and cheap, but they perceive what's rare, hard to find and expensive as more valuable. So if someone is always available and agreeable, their time, efforts and opinions will lose its value. Number two, someone who constantly agrees and accommodates for others may be perceived as non-contributing in a meaningful way. And this happens a lot in work environments because contribution is always seen in critical thinking, creativity, and challenging others. And number three, someone who's always willing to please may come across as insecure and needy for approval and acceptance. It doesn't mean you need to be rude to others and always object. That's not the point. It's about respecting others while staying true to yourself.
إذا بنت حست بنت أحلى منها تكرهها. إذا شاب بنت رفضته بيصير بده يتهجم عليها وبده يوطي من قيمتها.
أنت كسيدة بدك تعطي كمان بالمقابل.
البنت مش من واجبها تقدم ولا أي شيء للشاب قبل ما يصير في علاقة.
كتير شايفة حالك.
أنت كرجال تقليدي وين دورك؟ To be a provider. تكون عن جد رجال بمعنى الكلمة.
The next lesson we have is social contract, which Nour talked about in the interview with Hikmat, the over-hour-long one. And you can find the link below in my video on social contract. So Nour said she absolutely doesn't mind being a traditional wife, cooking and cleaning, if she marries a traditional gentleman who doesn't mind being a full provider. So she's not going to be a fully feminine woman and give feminine labor to someone who doesn't provide. Another point she made was so fascinating. She said she supports the next point is interesting. Hikmat points out that she supports Karma in her right to dance, but her fiancé also has the same right to not want a lady who dances as a traditional gentleman, right? If he provides. So is Nour not being fair with the social contract? And Nour said, he is absolutely right, the dentist, to have his preferences. And Karma also is right to have her preferences, right? The problem is when you pick someone and then want to change them, right? Women often, they pick someone because they lack self-esteem and they try to nag the gentleman to change. It never works. Same with gentlemen when they pick someone that's not their type, and Nour pointed it out. If you pick a very liberal woman and you want her to be very conservative, it's not going to work, right? And she said, I support both of their choices. Nour said her advice to Karma is, family, as in parents, they stay. But sometimes spouses come and go, people do get divorced, so don't give up things for your husband, and then, if it doesn't work out, who are you? You're left with a hole. So in essence, she's right about this. At the same time, I do advise Karma to give up dancing if she wants a traditional provider, because traditional providers in the Middle East do not tolerate someone who's a dancer, especially something like that. So some will be okay if you dance ballet or something more modest, but if it is something sensual, many Arab traditional providers are saying, I'm not paying all your bills so that I can feel, upset and antagonized that many gentlemen might be falling in love with you and mistaking simply that you're dancing and having fun as that you're flirting with them in specific. He said he doesn't like that. And that is alright, That's when I talk about social contract. If a man is a provider, it's not controlling. If he says, I don't want my wife to be like this is why I pay the bills. And if certain things are so important to you, maybe a 50-50 relationship might suit you better. That's why they're there, because many ladies have this hobby or this thing or that thing, and they want to stay 100% true to themselves, but what they enjoy doing antagonizes gentlemen, and they don't mind being antagonistic. So men will tolerate that if you do all the housework and split the bills. The type of men who provide, protect, and commit are traditional gentlemen, right? And that means they're much more controlling than liberal gentlemen, right? So for example, my husband buys my clothes, so he gets to pick my clothes that he buys. If I buy my own clothes from my consulting, etc., then I choose what I wear. So the one who pays the bills determines, right? But the problem right now that Nour highlighted is that in the Middle East there's a generation of young gentlemen who want submissive providers who cook and clean and work and split the bill 50-50, give birth and raise to the children. It doesn't work. Because in the Middle East we have traditional gender roles and we don't do 50-50, this is why we have a much higher birth rate than Western countries, when the burden of everything falls onto the woman. If you have to work and cook and clean, children are out of the question. If the West wants to increase their birth rate, then they have to do something about educating people that 50-50 is not okay. Corporations like 50-50 because they can underpay their employees. But then, you don't have a sustainable birth rate if you have 50-50. Just how it works. Not everything is free. In the interview with Hikmat asked her, why are people attacking you? And she said, ladies with low self-esteem will hate on a woman they perceive is more beautiful than her, and boys with low self-esteem will attack a lady they think that they can never get. My goodness, what Pickmes were on this show. It's unbelievable. The women went feminist and the boys went feminist, which shows feminism is a 50-50 scam that disempowers ladies in the name of female empowerment. And Nour said that, feminists ruined us all because now women's rights are taken away, which is very true. Even if you look at the abortion debate in the United States, feminists keep attacking gentlemen, to the point there was a lot of support to take Roe versus Wade down. wasn't from the religious, it was from secular gentlemen who just had enough with this yappy chihuahuas. So, the more they yap, the more feminists have your rights taken away. They're not effective in empowering ladies. They disempower ladies in the name of female empowerment. Holy Pickme, the things Nour and other Pickme women say on this show, because they are so triggered by Nour. They want to look like angels by just giving away and throwing their rights out of the window. Which is why it's good to have a religion like Islam that underlines what a woman's rights are, so that Pickme women are not able to throw the rest of society under the bus like they did in the West, just in hopes of having an advantage over a confident lady like Nour.
Or a player.
Player, yeah. And me, I'm too toxic. I'm being honest. I talk maybe with 1,000 girls.
Oof.
For me, a perfect relationship doesn't exist.
I will never in my life rely on a man.
I told her, she look for an ATM machine. She get rejected.
Arab men, they're toxic.
Easy come, easy go.
Totally against and no, the man has to provide 100%.
50-50 relationships do not end up 50-50, and this is why they're a problem. Women end up statistically doing most of the housework. Then there's also the beauty tax, right? We have to look beautiful, and we have to cook, we have to clean, so we're doing most of the work, and then we still have the job outside the home, and then split the bills, and then women's things cost so much more, so we have to contribute, to get less. I mean, how much does Botox cost versus a razor, right? 50-50 is inherently not 50-50, therefore it's not fair, and it ends up in divorces. After a while, women don't think it's alright. They get resentful, frustrated, and divorce. 50-50 doesn't work, and especially 50-50 with rich men will get you divorced. I know several women who got divorced because they split the bill with an affluent husband. And here's one of their stories where a Persian friend of mine, we'll call her Shahrazad. So she was studying initially, let's say McGill in Montreal, right? And then started working, right? And, working as an immigrant, it's not, she had a small salary, right? And she met an affluent, older gentleman, and at first he courted her lavishly, all the top restaurants and so forth. He's a lawyer, courted her beautifully, so he always paid for, 5-star Michelin restaurants, dining, everything like this. They got engaged, married. When they got married, he paid for a 5-star resort, vacation abroad, so many things, right? The honeymoon. So while he was courting her, he covered everything. She lived with, because it was expensive for her job. She wasn't making so much, right? And she got her first job was an assistant, right? So she was living with 3 other girls, so there were 4 of them together. She was splitting the rent between those 4, right? And she managed, by the time, with her assistant job after a few years working, she managed to have some savings and a car, right? So, and when they were dating, her husband, let's call him Francois. So, Francois covered everything, right? And then, when they started getting married, he said, you are perhaps normal in Persian culture, but in this culture you are a leech. You should contribute, right? And here's the thing. So he was a successful lawyer and law partner, and he had high-end taste, so he liked to travel, to stay at the Ritz and all this, and he wanted her to contribute, right? with her secretary's salary. And, you know, if he got dinner, once in a while she should get lunch, but he only liked Michelin star restaurants, the Ritz, and so on, right? And so she had to contribute to the rent, contribute to this, contribute to that. So she thought, you know, it was his own place. It turned out he was renting, right? And then he had 2 properties that were in a cottage. So, and those properties were rental units, right? And those rental units, so basically they were paying for their mortgage, so they were not paying for the rent. So he basically had a down payment, and the renters were paying for the mortgage of the 2 investment properties, right? Right, that he had. So they still had to pay rent, right? And so, and she still had to contribute. So, and this is why you don't do this. If you have an affluent gentleman that you're dating or married to, and if you must contribute, dump him, right? Better dump immediately than divorce. Because, I mean, you'll break your heart. Just say, listen, it just doesn't make financial sense to me. So what happened is Shahrazad came to Francois and said, you know, after a year together, she said, I have to sell my car to help. I had to sell my car. I had to sell some of my gold, and I have no savings. In a year, I am worse off. I've been telling you, I've been worse off financially than before I married you. This marriage makes no sense unless you can cover this. And he said, no, then you're being a leech, you're not doing your part. She said, okay, fine. But I'm doing my part in the bedroom. Sorry. I'm doing my part cooking, I'm doing my part cleaning. You just don't value me, do you? And then she went and got a lawyer. And, you know, she kept all the receipts, everything, right? So when she prepared this, she presented this to Francois, and Francois had a hostile response and accused her of being the leech and refused to help. So Shahrazad took Francois to court, and as a result, he had to give up one of his, you know, investment property rental units, and he also had to give up half the cottage. So that actually paid back for her car. She was able to have a car again, and she was able to have savings again because she went to the divorce court. And this is the problem with being greedy. For saving a few cents here and there, he actually lost more than the tiny bit he saved. You cannot change a greedy pig and stop making a greedy pig a greedy pig. You must leave. The same way, you know, Karma's fiance should accept that she's a liberal and leave her alone and not try to make a liberal lady conservative. And you should not try to make someone who doesn't want to provide. If he says he doesn't want to, leave. Another story why splitting the bills with a successful gentleman doesn't work is a friend of mine. Her friend, you know, was dumb enough to have a mortgage with a boyfriend. Never do it. If he's not marrying you, those relationships are not serious enough to invest together. Most boyfriend-girlfriend relationships break up. The vast majority, right? It's only half of marriages that end up in divorce, whereas the vast majority of boyfriend-girlfriend relationships don't work. Anyway, so her father cut her off, right, from the allowance and everything, and she's working, struggling, right? And she thought her solution to not struggle as much is to have an affluent boyfriend. Well, her boyfriend, who can easily pay for her flat, decided to, you know, oh, you must contribute, blah, 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 right? And the next thing you know is she says that, you know, she barely has any money, you know, she's starving, living with an affluent boyfriend. Of course, she resents him, cannot stand him, wishes he doesn't live, absolutely hates him, and still has to sleep with him, okay? And she doesn't know how to get out of this situation. She wants to get out of this situation where, her money is tied up in this home, and, and she doesn't have any pennies, anything, so she's just struggling to survive with the job because, it's a top penthouse, the most expensive place, and she has a job where she could live a decent life, but she's living in dire poverty next to a stingy, affluent man. Stingy, affluent men are far worse than broke, okay? If you have to choose between the two, probably better off with the broke, right? Jeannie Sales says that a man's love is communicated through money, so that his priorities are communicated through money. So if a man doesn't buy his girl a dress for 2 years, but buys himself the latest pair of golf clubs, it means he values golfing and his golf buddies a lot more than his wife or girlfriend, right? So a man's priorities lie where he spends his money. So if he has enough money to not split the bill 50-50, but wants to split the bill 50-50, darling, you're not a priority to him. He doesn't love you. Let's be honest. Because those Pickmeshas are so intimidated by Nour being a traditional Arab lady, automatically they try to, look better in front of the eyes of the male losers on the show by saying that they're a feminist, right? Really, this shows how terrible feminism is for women. I mean, in the modern era. Feminism has become taking away women's rights in the name of women's rights. And it may have started out well, but it's no longer working. In the Middle East, the Quran and tradition guarantees a man as a provider, right? That this is a real man. A man who does 50-50 in the Middle East is not considered a man, it's a girl, okay? So if you're liberal, okay, you're effeminate if you don't do that, right? You don't get respected by anyone if you split the bill. So what's really common in the Middle East is that men will get married at 30 and they would work and accumulate and find how to work to be able to provide for a family. And very often ladies might get married at 20, or they graduate university at 22, so ladies may get married younger, and it's very common that the lady's in her early 20s and her husband is 30, because also in the Middle East you're expected to give a bride price, getting married, have a job, have the ability to be responsible for a family. Whereas in the West, they want to reduce violence in the society and protest against the major corporations, right? So they want to manipulate women to give free kitty to broke, dusty losers so that you have less incidents of violence towards corrupt corporations. In the Middle East, we have a lower divorce rate. Contrary to Western racist, colonialist rubbish, it's not because we're oppressed. I mean, do you see Nour? Do you think she's oppressed? So I have a spicy story that I promised, and that is beneath Safa's Pickme video about how women should split the bill 50-50, which is utterly ridiculous. I saw a very silly comment in favor of 50-50, putting all other women down by a big Pickme. I was intrigued, and I gave her statistics why, 50-50 might be beautiful in theory, but in reality, 50-50 ends up being 30-70, right? Where women do more of the housework and men have more leisure time. In fact, it's about, it's said at best 130 hours a year men have more leisure and women have more housework. And then once you add the child, there's childcare. Also, of course, you have all the beauty labor, right? So gentlemen expect you to stay thin, right? And women also to have makeup, go to the gym, look beautiful, all these expectations. You know, my husband, right, for his self-care, he has his razor. He doesn't buy new one. He has this, right? So how much does he spend on self-care, right? On clothes, okay, cashmere, merino, wool sweaters eventually expire. But they last because they're good quality. I mean, he buys a suit and has it for years. For me, I have Botox, skincare, all sorts of things. My hair, there's all these hair products that I need that are specialized. Laser, all sorts of things, laser facials, all sorts of things. Of course, my gym membership, right? Since my husband pays for everything, I don't mind that he expects me to go to the gym, right? If he pays for the gym, he can expect me to go. If he pays for my makeup, he can expect me to wear it. If he doesn't, he has no say. I was intrigued by this 50-50 activist, Zara, with, an Arab-looking name, right? Kind of an Arab-looking appearance. So I clicked on her profile. Oh my goodness.
Just one verse in that a lot of extremisms did not do their research or did not look into the context. The comment section or my DMs being filled with people going like, oh, you're gonna burn in hell. Okay, so I'm finally going to put this whole Swedish-Yemeni discussion to a rest, because it feels like you would think that adults who have studied primary school at least would know.
How socially awkward. No wonder. And then I noticed everyone's, in the comments, it was the most socially awkward women and broke dusty losers, dusty gentlemen. And women with no social game. She was kind of a dweeby nerd who probably assembles computers in a basement. And, then I looked at her biography and I was alright. She was so socially awkward. I'm autistic, and if I am trying hard to be merciful and not laugh, because, I know how it is difficult for us neurodiverse people. It's serious, right? She explains it all right here.
Muslims, and quite literally tell us we're the ones making ourselves a victim, and being an ex-Muslim is our entire personality.
Darling, if being a victim is your entire personality, you're a loser, and no one cares what you have to say. So I gave my facts and logic, and she personally attacked me and said, my Instagram is shallow. I said, my Instagram is healed. It's not trauma dumping on the world. I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a stylist, and I'm only on Instagram and social media to promote my services. Otherwise, I would not be on social media in the first place because I have a life. She insulted me because of my social intelligence and thought I was dumb because I was pretty, but she has the social intelligence of a box of rocks. She has absolutely no self-awareness, and this is so common among 50-50 feminists. They have no idea how they come across, and they love to bully other women that they think this is saving them, when in reality it's their envy. And then of course they accuse everyone being jealous of them being this single cat lady, or being a free escort, free chef, free maid, right? Half the bills paid to some dusty loser. She had so much anger in her and vile, passive aggression. I started really, wondering where it came from. I mean, this nerdy dweeb goes into all these technical arguments how the Quran is not perfect. But are you perfect attacking other women personally for having a different opinion than you? And then she also is misogynist and thinks lowly of women, depriving us of agency. So she called me jealous because, my husband, she alleges, does not want to do housework. This is how stupid she is. I mean socially, right? And, being autistic, I understood I was not very intelligent socially, so I read books on psychology, saw therapists, did all these things, did all the work to understand how humans interact. My husband actually wants to cook. He's a better cook. He wants to help with the housework. I just don't let him. Why? Because my husband pays all my bills. But if he pays all my bills, then does half the housework, right? And then he does half the cooking, he'll ask, this is not fair. This is, I'm doing everything. And the only thing you're doing is going to the gym, which is nice. But maybe you should go to work. I know that, I don't want to go to work and him go to work, but then do most of the housework, cooking, and then plus being beautiful. This is important. He married a beauty queen and a former model, so he wants me to keep up my appearance and he pays for it, right? But that means I have to put the effort and time into it that if I'm working I could not, right? And then that would cause resentment if I balloon, right? And if I let my face go and become super wrinkly and saggy and all this, I'm in my 40s, right? I look decent for my age. But if I look older than my age because I don't have the time, because in addition to office hours and working, a bit cooking a bit more, cleaning a bit more, as women we're more particular. This is why women end up, we end up cleaning more and cooking more because we're more fussy and we like things done a certain way. And you don't want to nag, you don't want to tell him how to do it, so you end up doing it. And for men, it's better done than perfect. I'm not an idiot, I understand social contract. If I ask my husband to contribute half the domestic labor, he's a human being, and after a while, he'll resent me for being unfair to expect him to do all the external work labor outside the home and then half the labor inside the home. And it's like 75-25, right? Okay, if I also go to the gym and wear makeup and all that, 70-30, but still he would resent that. Nour represents most Arab women, so in the comments, that's who everyone supported. Do you think nations of Nours are oppressed? Or maybe you could say our gentlemen are oppressed. That's probably more likely. When you see reality TV show after reality TV show, Westerners are stunned that Arab women and Muslim women are stronger than the average Western woman, and yet strength and femininity do not contradict each other in Arab and Muslim culture. But, the queen royal archetype is the norm and the ideal of femininity in Arab culture, whereas the Pickme doormat seems to be what's considered feminine in the West. And that's why, of course, you had disruptive movements like feminism and 50-50, because traditional femininity in the West was considered to be the pick-me doormat like Dounia. And that doesn't work, right? So you don't need feminist radical revolution. Change comes from the inside. You need a royal, regal mindset of a queen, and that can change your life much more than any policy. Nour represents the traditional Arab lady with the regal feminine archetype. That means Nour doesn't sit there and fight, although she was attacked. She sets her standards and then accepts or rejects. So in the end, she didn't find anyone on that show of losers that met her standard, and she simply left. Dounia is clinging on to Chafic, who said in an interview he's a womanizer. If people tell you who they are the first time, believe them. And he'll definitely cheat because he feels he deserves some Instagram baddie with high self-esteem. Nour was absolutely right telling Dounia, listen, your behavior and jealousy was unhinged. If you have a problem with me, then you will have a problem with many other women who are, beautiful and the type that you accuse your boyfriend of flirting with. How about when you go into the real world? And there are women who are prettier than us, Are you going to, each time he looks at someone and starts commenting and starts making jokes and she laughs at his jokes, are you going to attack every woman who's prettier than you? Or maybe you should pick someone you're less insecure with. Nour set her standards and she's reasonable and takes into account social contract. That if a man provides, then of course she'll cook, right? So she takes this into account. She has her standards, and if gentlemen cannot meet them, she simply prefers to work and be single. So Arabs have a lower divorce rate and a higher birth rate because for women we don't have to do 50-50 and then raise children on top of that, right? Because gentlemen are expected to be providers, that relieves the burden of women. So when Arab women work, all our money is pocket money for us. That's why when a richer Arab woman marries a poorer Arab man, it still works, like the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his wife Khadija. He still had to be the full provider, right? And he had to provide and care for the family. If he's the provider, you submit to his competence, right? And you respect him and you look up to him in a way that if you both split the bills, you have your opinion. Oh, you did this wrong, You don't look up and admire, someone you split the bills with because you're equals now. If you pay your bills and half the home, why should you listen to him when he wants you to shave or wax your legs or not wear a miniskirt? If he's not paying, if he does not pay, he has no say. Next week you'll finally hear the secrets behind my beauty routine. Enjoy! Please like or hate, share and subscribe. Ciao!